Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Meet the New GeneMax Advantage series. My name is Nicole Ursig. I lead livestock genetic marketing for Zoetis, and I will be your host this evening. Today's topic is Breeder's latest customer service tool, the new and improved GeneMax Advantage. And I am personally excited about this program and the timeliness of this topic because of where we are in the cattle cycle here in the United States. I don't think genetic testing has ever been more relevant as we look at rebuilding the cow herd here in the United States and thinking about the cost benefit analysis on whether you keep a female in your program or you capitalize on the opportunity that exists for her in the marketplace. So, a perfect time to be talking about GeneMax and how do we rebuild the cow herd even better, as this is an opportunity for us to make genetic progress in the female side of the equation for the commercial cow herd. Casey Gents is going to join us first, and he had a chance last week to pre-record just a little bit of our conversation tonight. That helps us keep it tight and looking good for all of you. If you haven't met Casey, he currently serves as the Chief Operations Officer for the American Angus Association. In his role, he guides the strategic direction of several departments at AAA, including member and field services, communications, commercial and performance programs, and events and junior activities. Prior to serving in his current role at the association, Casey served as the regional manager for the states of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin. He grew up in the Angus business and wore the green jacket, served through the National Junior Angus Association as both a board member and vice chairman. He also has managed an Angus operation and worked in the animal health industry before his time at the American Angus Association. So let's welcome Casey.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll get right into it this evening. Your customers and your livelihood. As we talk about GMX Advantage, can we be an influential advisor and take our customer service to the next level for our customers? We try to make a meaningful impact on where they're at and their herd goals, and not only their bottom line, but also help them select not only replacement females, but they're registered Angus bulls with confidence, and be able to help them in that partnership of where they want to go. When we talk about the three ways that we make progress and increase our profitability, the first thing we need to do is set priorities, right? When we talk about setting priorities, we talk about different challenges with labor, environment, and one of the key decisions when we set our priorities is where are we going to market those cattle? Where is their endpoint? Are we going to market our calves as feeder calves? Are we going to retain ownership and take them all the way to the rail and really reap the benefits of the carcass premiums that are out there, the certified Angus beef premiums that are out there for the cattle that we're raising? Those are unique things that we need to understand. And once we set those priorities and those goals, then we can use the right tools to make sure that we're going to be able to deliver on those goals. When we talk about the tools, GMX Advantage obviously is a great tool for our commercial producers to be able to benchmark the female side of their herd and be able to use that as a common currency and use those EPDs and those indexes that are backed by the American Angus Association's data points and backed by millions and millions of data points to make sure that we have the most accurate tools that we can to make sure we use it, and to be able to pick out the right tools for our priorities, right? And then when we talk about marketing, making sure that we're taking advantage of all the investments that we've made from a genetic selection management standpoint. We've invested not only in a registered Angus bull that has that data behind him, but now we've invested in a GMX Advantage test on our female side to be able to capture that data and make sure that we're using that in conjunction with our AngusLink scores and making sure that we're doing everything we can to add value to our commercial customers' calves and make sure that they're rewarded for that genetic investment that they've made. When we talk about the pathway to progress, again, we talk about setting priorities. We talk about using that Powered by Angus database when we invest in that registered Angus bull. and then using the right tools from there, whether that's our GMX Advantage scores on our commercial females, or using the dollar values in the World Angus evaluation when we select our registered calves. And then obviously from a marketing standpoint, making sure that we're taking advantage of the value-added programs like our AngusLink, our Genetic Merit Scorecard, and the Angus Verified program. What does the GMX Advantage provide? Well, this is an example from a commercial producer's herd and his ranch, and he had the goals of he's going to retain ownership, but yet at the same time he's keeping his own replacement females. So he's been able to put selection pressure and make sure he's making progress, not only from a maternal standpoint, but also from a terminal standpoint, and using that combined index of that total advantage to be able to really benchmark his herd and making sure that he's moving in the right direction. Not only when it talks about his replacement females and where he's going there, but those steer calves that he's retaining ownership on and using those terminal traits to make sure he's getting paid in the end. How it works, when we talk about how it works, how we have that improved decision making, the faster genetic progress, when you combine the sire selection and the mating strategies, you can really speed up that genetic progress in your herd by having that data on the female side. We've always done a great job of selecting registered Angus bulls. They've done a great job of using those bulls and those EPD predictions to be able to make sure that they're making progress with their bull battery. But we've always just used them on our commercial herd and really haven't put that data behind the commercial herd to be able to move both sides at once and really increase that speed in the genetic progress that we can make. When we talk about the accurate predictions, we talk about being able to benchmark our commercial herd against the database of over 130,000 animals. And just that sheer amount of information that we have, it's built off the Angus system, right? We have the gold standard at the American Angus Association from a data standpoint to make sure that we have the most accurate tools in the industry. And to be able to build a tool that's based off of that for our commercial cow herd really puts them in an advantage to be able to take advantage of all the work that we've done as members of the registered business of the American Angus Association to build that database. And when we talk about easier management of our sire battery, we talk about our Sire Match program that is within the GMX Advantage test. When you use the GMX Advantage test, you're going to get a sire match on each one of those females. And the way that works is any bull that has genomic markers and parentage markers with the American Angus Association is in that database. So there's no need to retest your sires that you've already had, whether they were tested on a different platform, and be able to have to retest those within the database to get that sire match. As we talk about management from a commercial cow herd, being able to kind of build pedigrees and know what those sires are from an inbreeding coefficient standpoint, making sure that we're building those pastures and those decisions within our herd and being able to stack those sires accordingly and be able to have that information really puts you at a different level from a management standpoint on your commercial herd. You can see with the chart here over the last 10 years, we've been able to make a really great progress of the number of sires being able to be identified within that. Obviously, we're well into the 80% now as we push forward to be able to use that sire match and make sure it's accurate, and we're being able to build those pedigrees. When we talk about Power by Angus, only Angus can bring you a tool that's designed for the commercial producer that ties directly back to the dollar value indexes on our registered Angus database and has that ability to have that sire match. There's no other test that has that capability within the industry. And also when we talk about a comprehensive evaluation, we talk about covering critical areas like maternal, feedlot, carcass, and different management traits. When we talk about, is this for your customers? What is the ideal customer, commercial customer that should be using GeneMax Advantage? Those that have a breed composition of 75% Angus or more in their commercial female base. That is what the test is based off of. Also, are they retaining ownership through the feedlot? They can take great advantage there of the synergies within the AngusLink Genetic Merit Scorecard program. We talk about marketing feeder cattle there with the AngusLink and adding value to your heifer development program. How do you differentiate which animals you're going to take and retain, or even if your market is replacement commercial heifer females, making sure that you're providing the best for your customers, even as a commercial producer, with that added information and that added pedigree information. That all goes a long way of if it's for your customers and what we envision producers to use the GeneMax Advantage for. When we talk about our commercial producers, right, the best way that we can sustain as a seed stock producer is to make sure that we're a partner with our commercial producers and that we work with them not only our sale week when it comes to selecting their next herd sire, but making sure that we're helping them throughout the year, whether it's marketing their feeder cattle, or in this case, making sure that they're setting a direction for their program and using that GeneMax Advantage test to be able to put some values on their females to be able to make the right decisions for their goals in their program. Anytime we can work with them more often and create that partnership, that creates a longtime customer and a repeat customer. Not only when you talk about your customers, but that's where GeneMax Advantage is also unique, is it is built on a partnership. AGI is the intelligence and help design the test and has the intelligence and uses the American Angus Association database to be able to build the test and make sure that we have the accuracy that we need. And we also partner with Zoetis on the test to make sure that we have some of the best sales force out in the industry and have them provide that and do that within a partnership. As we move into what's new with the GeneMax Advantage test, we want to talk about the dollar value indexes that we have that are within the GeneMax Advantage test that your commercial customers will be receiving. We have the 5 key dollar values you can see here on the screen: $M, $G, $F, $B, and $C. And each one of those compared directly to your registered Angus values that you guys are used to as members of the American Angus Association. Being able to have those in the same language and being able to use those effectively, not only does that help our commercial producers understand those values because they use them when they're looking for sire selection, but having those in a common currency to use on their cows as well really puts them at an advantage in understanding what's in the maternal wean calf value index versus what's in a beef value index and also the combined value index. When we talk about the individual traits that we offer and the GeneMax Advantage test, you can see the 22 individual traits here on the screen. The ones in bold are the new ones that we've added within the last 2 years. The PAP, hair shed, functional longevity, udder, and teat. And as we continue to develop more traits in the industry that are economically relevant, we will continue to enhance the GeneMax product, not only for our commercial producers. The 22 individual traits are based on a score of 0 to 100, with 100 being in a positive direction for whatever that trait is. As we get to the AngusLink, the GMX Advantage connection, we talk about really adding value to our marketing system when we talk about the GMX Advantage score. What is that extra value that we have? And as we move forward, the Genetic Merit Scorecard and AngusLink really has drove the industry on where we're going from feeder calf marketing, being able to put those value scores for our feeders and have that information be out there, and we use that Sire battery. But as you use GeneMax Advantage in your commercial herd, we really classify that cow side of that program as well. And when you can see on the screen it has enhanced with GeneMax Advantage, that's going to show our feeders in the industry that there's data not only on the sire side of this, but on the female side as well, and really enhances the accuracy and makes sure that we have the most accuracy that we can have in that genetic merit scorecard going forward. As we move into the 2026, I want to talk about some of the different new things that are coming within the GeneMax Advantage platform. And one of the things that we've been working on here for a while is the Herd Intelligence Report. The Herd Intelligence Report will offer our customers a summary analysis of their herd and really tracks the trends over time for our repeat customers. It's a great tool to be able to see where we're at and see where we're going, and puts the whole herd in a great report to where you can really see the trends of what you're trying to do and lay out your goals and make sure that they're moving in the right direction for you. As we wrap up, we just want to talk about, again, what we've talked about here today, that improved decision making that we get with the GeneMax Advantage program, being able to make that faster genetic progress, having the most accurate predictions we can have, and easier management throughout. And also being able to have that partnership. This allows you as a seed stock producer to get involved not only just sale week, but the rest of the year, to make sure that we're staying in touch with our commercial producers and making sure that we're a partner alongside them, and being able to make sure that they're really reaching their goals, not only from a breeding standpoint, but from a marketing standpoint, and making sure that they are staying in business and making the most money they can as a commercial producer. That also goes and benefits you come sale week when they come to select their next sire.
Thank you so much, Casey. Again, if you have questions for him, and I know we've started to see a few here in the chat, please go ahead and add those. Casey is here with us live this evening and will join us for a little bit of Q&A. I know the AngusLink connection is really an exciting addition to this product as well, and Angus will be sharing more about that option for marketing cattle in a news release on January 29th. I'm also sure if you are going to be at NCBA convention here in a couple weeks, stop by the Angus booth and the folks would love to chat with you about that. But speaking of partnerships, let's learn more about how GeneMax Advantage strengthens those breeder-customer relationships. We have a dynamic duo with us this evening, Shelton Miles and Paul Bennett, up next for our panel discussion. I will do a little intro of both of them, and then we will get into Q&A. So first up is Shelton Miles of Gladys, Virginia. He's a cattle rancher and businessman who operates River Bluff Farm. Shelton focuses on raising commercial Angus cattle with a particular emphasis in selecting for traits like tenderness, marbling, and feed efficiency using data from GeneMax Advantage. His breeding program is exclusively natural service. Shelton utilizes several different marketing channels. He develops and sells bred heifers, sells feeder steers and pot loads through teleauction, often to repeat buyers, and runs a freezer beef program, selling directly to customers in his local area as well as in Southside, Central, Southwest, and Tidewater, Virginia. Shelton sources most of his genetics from Paul's family, as well as some other Angus breeders. He also serves as a full-time Baptist minister in his community, which I just learned is named Hellbent, which is perfect for a Baptist minister, and has served on several state boards related to water management. And our second panelist for this evening is Paul Bennett of Red House, Virginia, who operates Knollcrest Farm alongside his brothers Jim and Brian and his nephew Dalton. The Bennett family has been producing seed stock genetics since 1944. They collect comprehensive performance data on their 800-head cow herd and focus on generating 400 high-quality, balanced trait bulls annually to supply the commercial beef industry. A key component of their success is understanding the needs of their customers, like Shelton. And Paul says he has been incredibly impressed with how Shelton has methodically used GeneMax Advantage and applied the information to guide his breeding program over the years. Paul also serves on the American Angus Association Board of Directors. So welcome, Shelton and Paul. Thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Okay, well, Sheldon, my first question is for you, and I know we have some data of yours to share with the group. Can you talk about how you've used genetic testing in your commercial herd to make progress towards your goals, and maybe explain to the group what your goals are and then how this data has helped you reach and get closer to those goals?
Yeah, our goals ultimately to make money in the cattle business, and our marketing program is roughly the pot load of feeder cattle. We usually do one 50,000 pot load of 7-weight natural feeder cattle every year. We kill about 70 feeder cattle off of pasture through the freezer, sell as quarters, halves, wholes. We don't do any sales by the package. And then bred heifers. In any given year, one of those revenue streams may be a little larger than the other, but all three are large and they kind of trade places. So our goals determine, how we go about making genetic selections, which basically means we need our cattle to do everything. They need to be reproductively efficient. They need to have good carcass traits that keep repeat buyers back, whether that's a repeat feeder buying the pot load or a repeat freezer customer. Tenderness is really important to us because if I sell a tough half to a housewife in Lynchburg, Virginia, she will chew through it for a year, cussing me every day and then not come back again. We knew when we started with GeneMax that we were doing pretty good on weaning weight and yearling weight, calving ease, marbling, docility. Those were things that we could observe or that we had selected for so consistently. We knew we're doing well, but there were other traits that we really didn't know how we were doing on. And sometimes by the time you figure it out, the bull that can help you move in that direction has gone on to his eternal reward. So we were real interested both to do a snapshot to confirm where we were, but also how to make progress. And so obviously we use GeneMax to select the females that we're going to breed. And then once they're bred, which ones we're going to keep and which ones we're going to offer to other buyers, really focusing there on the maternal traits and also on the carcass traits. And one of the strategies that we used, instead of always trying to swing for the fence for a home run on any one trait, we just focused on individual traits that were important to us, and most all of them are. One or two are not for our marketing program, but most of them are. So we would try to eliminate the bottom 35%. And if we eliminated the bottom 35% in every significant trait, then the indexes naturally rose in and of themselves. We used GeneMax then to identify the sires that we wanted to cull on the one hand, because we were seeing that their progeny were not meeting some of our targets, or in the alternative, some sires that we wanted to use more to really get more progeny from. And then we looked at all the data on averages, and we used that data to set up the criteria for sires that we needed to purchase, where we needed to step our program up a little bit. And then finally, when you get down to the individual level, we could use GeneMax, and we have used it to decide some particular matings here on the farm, which sire to use with which female, depending on what we've got in terms of strengths and weaknesses in that genomic profile.
Thank you so much, Shelton. So I'm actually going to have you answer a couple questions from the live Q&A, and then I promise I will get to you, Paul. But Shelton, can you talk about, we have someone asking, what is the value of the sire information as you're selecting commercial heifers, which I think you answered a little bit, but if you could dive in on, especially someone who uses natural service, and then why do you trust the data from GeneMax? Like, how accurate have you found that it is? Because I think you told me you've been testing since 2014. So you have several years of testing results to show that, hey, I trust it, it works.
Right. I've been testing since 2014 with just a few, and then almost every heifer since 2016. We've probably got about 600 samples. That sire information is important because we can do sorts. If you download to a spreadsheet, You can then sort and identify which sires are giving you the results that you want. I will say, too, that every reiteration of Angus Genetics also shows up in a reiteration of GeneMax Genetics. And so the product has gotten better as the genomic data has gotten better, and then it's supported better, too. There have been several upgrades, and the latest one is the biggest and the best one. Gives me a lot more tools that just make it easier to process the data. I could do it before, but it took a little more work. Plus, we've added some significant new data points.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shelton. So, Paul, I want to get to you from a seed stock perspective. How have you been able to walk alongside Shelton in this process and support his progress towards his goals using GeneMax?
Well, honestly, maybe I need to say that Shelton has supported our progress maybe more than we've supported his, just because with his level of interest and intrigue with cattle breeding, it's really made me more focused on what we really need to be doing as a genetic service provider. And so it's really created an opportunity for us to have a lot of back and forth, trying to understand what his needs are, which I think truly are very representative of what exists out in the industry as a whole. And then us being prepared to solve his problems from a genetic standpoint moving forward. And so, customers like Shelton have made us a much better breeder because we're just more attentive to the details and staying focused. And with the years, particularly since being on the Angus board, I just think it gives us a wealth of knowledge, and it increases our confidence in our ability to help our customers select the right genetics to accomplish their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, question for you. What would you say to an Angus breeder listening tonight and saying, like, that's awesome and I love that it's worked for you and Shelton, but I don't know that I have time to go through this level of data with some of my commercial customers?
I would say that I don't see that as a handicap. I understand that, different customers require different levels of involvement and interaction. But I mean, certainly in terms of understanding the data, understanding what it means, we've got multiple sources. I mean, I would tell our seed stock audience here tonight, reach out to your regional manager, get them involved in that process of educating your customers and helping them understand what the value of this product is.
Absolutely. Great resource to lean on. So, Shelton, from your perspective, for the breeders who are tuning in tonight, what tips or advice do you have for them from the customer experience of how they can help their commercial customers make the most of testing with GeneMax?
I thought about that question. You floated it to me in advance, and I've got a few things here. First, download the data to a spreadsheet. That's really the only way to really dig deep into it and to use it, and then let the spreadsheet do the mathematical work. Run all of your averages on that spreadsheet, do the sire sorts on that spreadsheet. The percentile tables are your friends, so you don't have to deal with raw data numbers that will confuse you if you don't spend a lot of time with them. Then identify on that spreadsheet what to you are the unacceptable parameters. What can you not live with, and highlight it. It's easy on a spreadsheet to color code it, and those things then will flash out at you. The other thing that I would say is that one way that we use this data is to sell the steer mates, because they are siblings to the heifers that we're testing. We're testing about as many heifers as we're putting on that potload of steers from right in the nice representative cut of our cattle operation. So we're able to go to those feeders with feed to gain data, marbling data, ribeye data, carcass weight, yearling weight, docility, traits that are all important to the feeders that we're utilizing. The other way that we use this data is that we use it to help our heifer customers. When they come to the farm, we sell the heifers a la carte out of the pasture, and they come into the pasture and I give them the spreadsheet and help them get what they want. Occasionally I'll have a customer, in fact, I know who they are, who like the big girls. I don't like the big girls. I want moderate sized cows so I can steer them. Well, here's your heavy mature weight. You might not see it today, but this one's going to keep on growing a while. On a practical side, just collecting the data, I think for us, it's worked much better to go to the All-Flex TSU samplers than the blood cards. It saved us a lot of time. And since we've gone to the All-Flex TSUs, we haven't had to do any resampling. We were having to do some resampling almost every time with the blood cards. Then the other thing I would say, two other things really. First, keep using it. It has become more valuable to us as we have used it multiple years, and we can look back now and see this heifer came out of this dam and this grand dam, and we've got data on all of them, and we can plot where we're going, and we just have a whole lot better idea. We're building the histories. And then the final thing I would say, because I do love data, I'm a data wonk, but genomics is only one tool, and I have to remind myself occasionally, yeah, it's great on those cold winter nights to sit there staring at the computer screen and daydreaming about getting the numbers to a certain place, but you still have to look at the phenotype. You still have to put eyes on the cattle, and you still have to measure performance too. We don't just rely on GeneMax and genomics to drive our program. It is one of the three things that we use to drive our program, but we feel like it's helped move us forward substantially. And just as a final note, one thing I've always appreciated about Knollcrest approach is that they tend to look at all of the total package of cattle too. A lot of breeders tend to try to fix one problem, and in the process, they'll create another one. And Knollcrest does a very good job. I always have a lot of candidates at their bull sale that will work for me because they are not just single focused, but they're looking at multiple traits that are significant.
Yeah, that's great, Shelton. So you kind of spoke to this a little, but it's a question in the chat, so I wanna dig deeper on it, and it goes to that phenotypic piece of the equation as you're looking at genetic testing. So as someone who's used GeneMax for a long time, do you test all of your heifers, or do you sort them phenotypically first and then select, okay, those ones aren't going to make the cut based on phenotype alone, and then I'm going to test these ones over here?
We test probably 80 to 85% of them. There are a number of screens that our heifers go through. At weaning, we weigh them, and some flunk out right there on weight. The grader comes through. He grades our heifers at the same time that he grades the steers for the tele-auction. We'll flunk them on grade if they are not a M or L1. So there are phenotypic hoops, and then there are other hoops down the road too. We use the Virginia Premium Assured Heifer protocols, and so they can flunk out on reproductive tract score. I don't care how good the genomics are. They can flunk out if they don't meet the weighted breeding time. They can flunk out if they don't meet the pelvic score. That's one instance of that in all these years, but it's still a hurdle they have to clear. So genomics is just one of the hurdles, but we do use it as a hurdle. We will flunk one out on genomics. I don't care how good she looks. We've done it. I stunned one of my employees. He said, "What on earth is wrong with that heifer?" I said, "I do not like her Cavaney's maternal score." And he said, "Then sell her to somebody else." And I said, "That's not the way we do business. If we're not willing to keep her, we're not willing to sell her to somebody else."
Yeah. The genomics give you kind of a prediction of what her future is going to look like and help you solve problems. So Paul, I promise I'm not trying to keep you quiet by any means, but there's a couple chats here that I'm going to toss towards Shelton, and then I'll toss you a question. But Shelton, there's some curiosity of if you use the GeneMax indexes, and then how you use, or do you use the tenderness measure?
I use every data point in GeneMax. So I look at the indexes. That's the quick and dirty way to get an overview. And we're putting a lot of heifers right now in the top 5% in the total index, the $C or the maternal I mean, the total advantage index, whichever index you want to look at, you don't put one in the top 5% and have it be really bad in any trade. I mean, that's just, the index has kind of solved that problem if you're getting that high. But we will flunk one on tenderness. I've got a flat out tenderness screen, and I use that tenderness screen too. I have some heifer customers who want to do what we do, which is develop a significant retail meat market. And so I use the tenderness data too for heifers that move to other buyers. And inversely or conversely, if I've got somebody who just wants to sell feeder cattle at the local sale barn, I steer them away from those heifers. That's not necessarily what they need.
Thanks, Shelton. So, Paul, with GeneMax being an Angus product, it's owned by the American Angus Association. Can you talk a little bit about how this piece of the Angus toolbox adds to the service that you're providing as an Angus breeder and selling registered Angus bulls to commercial customers?
Sure. Well, our goal is to produce and market a reliable product. And that means it needs to be highly documented. And I've always said, if we can't measure it, we can't manage it. I've heard that many times, and I totally agree with that thought process. This product essentially creates a level of connectivity between the seed stock producer and his commercial customer that's never existed in our industry before. And I think for me to have that tool to use to interact with a customer and say, hey, you tell me that you're confused or frustrated with trying to understand the EPDs on these bulls that we're selling. If we can encourage those customers to use GeneMax, actually get some data back that they truly own, it's their cattle. And a lot of times it's a pretty steep learning curve, but we find that, those are the customers that are most appreciative of having a high level of understanding of the broad scope of the genetics that we're trying to create and provide. And, I'd go back to one thing that Shelton mentioned earlier. I think we would all find that the ultimate goal is let's eliminate the problems. And if we do eliminate that bottom end on every trait, then that's what really brings the net benefit to us with this product. And so using it as a culling tool is probably its greatest initial use. And then with a little experience with it, it's an incredible marketing tool because, we at our Angus board meetings, we're constantly talking about a couple of things that have been mentioned. One of them, we need more phenotypes. We need our seed stock. We need our membership to continue to give us a lot of phenotypes so that we can continue to train these markers and get this genomics piece right. And so, and we also talk about, how can we get commercial data into the American Angus Association database? And, we're all about data. We're all about getting the information correct. And I actually think that, this may be an opportunity for us to create some connectivity with commercial producers like Shelton. And, he's going to be an asset to our database, to the Angus database moving forward, in my opinion, producers like him.
Absolutely. Well, I will maybe land us on one final question. I think we could ask you both questions all evening long. But Sheldon, I'm curious from your perspective, and maybe Paul, yours as well, working with other producers. You're obviously a data nerd, Sheldon, and you care to dive deep into some of this. Does GeneMax work for a producer that maybe isn't as well adept in data? Can it still provide them some insights and some ideas of where to go as they manage their cow herd and look to buy bulls?
Yes, it can. I mean, in the same way that a casual look at Angus Genomics, the data, the dollar indexes do mean something, in relative terms. So even if you don't want to dive super deep into the data, it can still help you, but it's not that complicated. I'm a college graduate. My degree is in religion and philosophy. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a statistician, and I've been able to do this. I don't think it's all that complicated.
Thank you both so much. Appreciate your time and your experiences. And if there's any other questions in the chat, we'll make sure they get floated to Paul and Shelton. But thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your experience with the program. Now we're going to bring back Casey. And new on your screen this evening is Dan Ellis, one of our strategic sales representatives from Zoetis, to answer your questions. So we've got a couple in the chat for both of you as well, but let's just get started with entry-level question about GeneMax. Dan, if you can take this one, what is the cost and what kind of sample types do we accept for GeneMax testing?
Thank you, Nicole. And again, I think it's important to point out this is an evaluation and test owned by the American Angus Association and AGI. We provide a sales and support function. And when you collect those samples, you can use blood, hair. We certainly prefer the TSUs, the tissue sampling units. They're pretty easy. We also provide those free of charge. If you contact us, we'll provide all the testing supplies, the gun, the TSUs, free of charge. The cost is $28. Again, you send those samples to the Angus Association, not to Zoetis. And they do the calculations. It goes into their database.
Thanks. And Dan, cost on if I'm a commercial producer and I'm looking to test with GeneMax, or either you or Casey can answer that, but what's it going to run a commercial producer per head to test with GeneMax?
$28 a head.
Thank you. So Casey, this next one is for you. How would you handle working with, if you were an Angus breeder, working with a repeat customer who's buying bulls regularly every year from you as an Angus breeder? Maybe they test with GeneMax and they are unhappy with the results that they receive. Maybe it uncovers some things for them that they didn't know what was going on. How would you tackle that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nicole. I think, the first thing it does is it opens up a chance to really have the conversation about what their goals are, right? Really get with them and be able to discuss what their goals are, where they're wanting to go, and then making sure that we're helping them select the best bulls that we have available to be able to move those traits in the right direction. I think you can see with Shelton and Paul, the test is just as beneficial for Paul to know the kind of bulls that he needs to make for his customers from a genetics standpoint to really benefit them. And when he has those clear goals in mind, it makes working with his producers and designing genetics for them and really helping them from a customer service standpoint select the bulls that really meet their criteria and where they want to go.
Thanks, Casey. So we've got a couple questions in the chat. And maybe before we move on from that, talk about a customer that maybe gets the results back, isn't necessarily happy with them. Dan, maybe you speak to the customer service aspect that Zoetis provides of if you've maybe had a sample fail or, you didn't get your results on time or something like that, and how Zoetis approaches it and assists either Angus breeders themselves or those direct customers if anything goes wrong.
Sure, Nicole, and inevitably there are challenges here and there, but very few and far between, thankfully. Please just reach out if you have an issue or a sample that did not report. We'll track it down. We'll find out where the issue is. We work with AGI very closely, talk to them all the time about where we need to go to get the customers exactly the information they need. And to reach us, there's several places to do that. You can probably the best one is the AGI website. When you go to the commercial section, you can click on Talk to a Rep. It brings you to our inside sales staff, which are highly trained in GeneMax as well, can discuss the issues. They can also forward the questions and any challenges that might have come up. You can also reach out to me. any of our salespeople at Zoetis that are supporting on GeneMax.
Absolutely. And I see the question in the chat, someone, if they are looking for free testing supplies, you can also go to beefgenetics.com, which is our Zoetis genetics site. If you book a call with a rep, our inside sales reps will send you those TSUs and that sample gun as well for the customer who is looking to test. A couple questions here in the chat. One is a question probably for you, Casey. What type of animals should be testing with GeneMax? And this person's asking specifically if they should be testing their registered cows with GeneMax versus getting EPDs on those commercial or on those seed stock females. So who is the ideal candidate for GeneMax test?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal candidate is your commercial replacement females. The test is really designed from a commercial standpoint to give you that info and give you those scores on those different traits. On the registered side, you would have your Zoetis 50K test. That would probably be more designed on a registered side. And when you combine that with pedigree and performance data, your EPD is going to be the most accurate in the industry for a registered animal. So, this test is specifically designed for the commercial producer.
Thanks. And as they think about those commercial females to test, Shelton spoke a little bit to this earlier, but is it recommended that you test every animal, just a percentage of the breeding stock that you are intending to keep?
I think everyone has a phenotypic criteria that they're looking for, and I think that's a personal preference. I mean, we have some customers that have used GeneMax for years that test every hoof on the place, and they think that sometimes they caught a couple that they might have gotten rid of that just needed a little more time. But I think the way that Shelton does it, where when he has culled at the beginning with his criteria, then taking your 80-90% is not a bad way to go either. I think you can do it any way you want.
That's great. Oftentimes we will talk about too, so, like once you've done that phenotypic sort, test two, keep the best one. So after you've done that phenotypic sort, then testing based on what makes sense. Any other questions? I've got a couple. Get them into the chat here before we wrap up. But as we go to close this evening, Dan and Casey, here's just one more time from each of you. What is the next, one easy next step that breeders on this webinar can do right now to improve their current customer service program utilizing GeneMax?
I think that just reaching out. I mean, especially if you have an event coming up, and knowing that GeneMax is designed, the customer is someone that purchases a registered Angus bull, preferably a transferred bull. And when you look in that direction, it gives you an easy way to start the conversation. How's things going? What are you going to need for bulls this year? And by the way, we'd like to talk to you about GeneMax. And again, if you have trouble with that discussion, it's something that Zoetis could help you with those customers as well. But beginning the conversation and talking to them about their needs, I think Casey hit the nail on the head, that learning what their goals are, what their interests are, what their program entails, find out what's important to them. And just listening to what's important to your bull buyer, you can almost get down to where it's a customized bull bang. We think these bulls are going to be best for your program.
I mean, I guess if I would answer that, the one thing I would tell you is look to download the breeder toolkit that we have with the GeneMax Advantage program. It'll be available on a follow-up email. It'll get emailed to you after the webinar, and make sure you're taking advantage of the tools that are out there. And as a seed stock provider, make sure you're taking advantage of the rebate program for your sale book ads this spring. As you move into building your sale books, there is a rebate to that can help you promote this to your commercial customers within your sale book as well. So that'd be something that, I think I would want to take advantage of.
Thank you. Well, I think that is all the time we have for tonight. I think I've actually gone over time a little bit, but thank you to Casey. Thank you to Shelton and Paul and Dan for sharing your expertise with all of us here this evening. And thank you all for joining us. There will be a survey that pops up here at the end of this webinar. We would really appreciate if you go ahead and fill that out. And then keep in mind the resources that exist to you via the American Angus Association and Zoetis, whether it is that breeder toolkit, booking a call with either the American Angus Association or a Zoetis rep, or don't forget about your regional manager. They are a great tool and asset as you look to promote GeneMax or leverage GeneMax as a tool in your customer service and the bulls that you're providing to the commercial industry. So thank you all again for joining us this evening. And if you have any questions on GeneMax or if we can help you anyway, don't hesitate to access those resources or reach out.